Welcome to A Guide to Every Deck in EDH. Today we're looking at the Beamtown Bullies. So the Beamtown Bullies are a Jund commander. They're a 4-mana 4/4 with Vigilance and Haste, and they have tap. Target opponent whose turn it is puts target non-legendary creature card from your graveyard onto the battlefield under their control. It gains haste, goad it. At the beginning of the next end step, exile it. So the main plan here is going to be to get a incredibly detrimental creature into our graveyard so that we can reanimate it under an opponent's control using the Beamtown Bullies and kill them that way. So to that end, some of the biggest hot potatoes are Leveler. When it enters, you exile your deck. This is probably the single-handedly best creature that we can reanimate under an opponent's board. We also have Inverter of Truth to somewhat do the same kind of thing. We have Eater of Days. When it enters, the player skips their next 2 turns. We also have Avaricious Dragon. At the beginning of your end step, discard your hand. And Hellcarver Demon. Whenever it deals combat damage to a player, you sacrifice all other permanents you control and discard your hand, exile the top 6 cards of your library. You may cast any number of non-land cards exiled this way without paying for them. But, you know, they also had to exile their entire board, so that's pretty bad as well. So continuing with the rest of our cards, we've got Faithless Looting to filter through our cards and potentially bin some creatures. Some number of card draw spells, including Yawgmoth, which it should be mentioned does actually have an ability to discard cards. We have Marvin as basically a second Beamtown Bully so that we can get multiple activations in a turn. We also have World Gorger Dragon as another card that we can hypothetically use to exile all of our opponent's stuff. This is normally used in like Animate Dead, Dance of the Dead, or Necromancy loops to generate infinite mana or get infinite triggers. But in this case, we can also use it to just animate it on an opponent's side of the board and get rid of all of their other permanents. A fairly straightforward Jund mana base. Some protection for the Beamtown Bullies. We want to make sure that it doesn't get countered or killed. In particular, Legolas's Quick Reflexes is really good as a protection spell that also untaps Beamtown Bullies, so we can activate it again. Whole bunch of ramp spells, bunch of removal spells. Bane of Progress, which is also not so bad of a card when we just reanimate it under an opponent's control, because if we're just looking to blow up all the artifacts and enchantments in play, it's fine if it's reanimated under an opponent and not just us. Then we've got additional ways of getting things into the graveyard, so Buried Alive, Entombed, Unmarked Grave, and Survival of the Fittest. Then there is Despotic Scepter, so this is tap, bury target permanent you own, so this is destroy it. Mainly what this is for is that, if you recall, Beamtown Bullies winds up exiling the creature, but, you know, if I've reanimated a Leveler, for example, I want to be able to reanimate it again under an opponent's control. So, you know, reanimate it the first time, it exiles one opponent's deck. I want it to die so that I can reanimate it under the next opponent's control, but Beamtown Bullies exiles it. So instead of that, we can use Despotic Scepter to simply kill it, and then we can reanimate it again. To that end, I also have Rift Sweeper in here, so in case we do have our creature go into exile, this is a way to get it back out of exile. There's also Tortured Existence as a way to loop creatures. So all of these detrimental creatures, we don't want any of them actually in our hand because we never actually plan to cast any of them. So this is a way that we can just discard them and get back a creature we actually do want. And then finally, we have our untapping cards. So cards like Magerite Stone, and then especially the cards that untap for multiple turns like Quest for Renewal, Seedborn, and Sting the Glinting Dagger. And so with that said, that is going to do it for the Beamtown Bullies in EDH.